Hey, welcome back to another new episode of Geeks from the Multiverse. We're going to be talking about another spooky, scary October topic, which is ghosts and the paranormal. That's right. We're going to be discussing everything having to do with ghosts in the pop culture and geek culture world, as well as some of these paranormal reality shows that have popped up kind of all over the place. So stay tuned and let's get geeky. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode. I'm one of your hosts, Matt, aka Mr. Grumpy Beard, and with me, as always,
is Johnny Boy, aka Captain Lustache. And like I said, I'm just trying this out. I want to see if that's going to work well. I mean, I think it kind of fits, with the whole theme here, because Mr. Grumpy Beard over here, got to be all Eeyore-like and whatnot. But
what happens when you don't have a mustache?
Then I guess I'll be called Nostache. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm hoping that's not the case. I mean,
Captain Nostache?
Captain Nostache?
Captain La Meow?
Captain, or hold on, Mr. Grumpy Meow. That's what you are if you're going to keep it up then.
So yeah, the ghost and paranormal, John. We just got done in the last episode of last week talking about demons and demonic possession, and where, you can kind of tie, I guess, that with this topic that, this week. Obviously, ghosts and the paranormal are a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, they're different, but I think the thing with, ghosts and like paranormal and stuff like that, it's definitely more popular. I would say, I'm not saying that it's not as popular as like, the werewolves and the vampires and stuff like that, but like, it's just been around for so long. I mean, especially like, really I would say even a famous franchise that is, recently came out with a movie like Ghostbusters, stuff like that. Yeah,
I think it's, I think people just fear that unknown.
Well, right. I was going to say fear the unknown, but the thing about this is where I could say, me personally, I know you said you have some kind of stories too, but like I do have an experience per se that, it kind of drives me to, kind of say that, with ghosts and paranormal, I do believe that there are some type of, beings that, again, we can't always see and we can't always like interpret and stuff, but like, it's definitely, it feels like there's presence, there's like somebody.
I like presents.
Oh yeah, of course you like presents. You like the presents and, everything else that comes with Christmas and whatnot. No, I'm saying like the feeling of like something being there without really knowing if it's really there or not. Like, so like, that's the thing where like, when you look at ghosts and like the paranormal stuff is like, when you hear stories of like, an object flying across the room all of a sudden, you're just like, okay, that's a little weird. If like a book just randomly started flying out of nowhere and just like hit a wall or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really skeptical. I would say I am a skeptic when it comes to paranormal, and I think it's it has a lot to do with a lot of these paranormal reality shows. I mean, they've created kind of like a certain level of like buzz and intrigue. I mean, but you also have like, obviously Ghostbusters, and you have like these popular movies and TV shows, Beetlejuice, Casper. I mean, Paranormal Activity is like a huge franchise.
Oh yeah.
It's just created like so much buzz and intrigue where you just don't know, like, are these things real? Can they really happen like this? Like, I don't know. I mean, I've certainly like you've said before, like I've certainly had my own experiences, and I don't really know how I would explain it. And of course, like with paranormal and ghosts, you have like those classic campfire ghost stories that we've told probably as kids, just meaning to like scare each other.
Right, and when I look at like ghost stories and like these, I don't know, I guess beings or like, kind of like talking about like the different stuff we're going to be talking about here. But, you always get those like, I don't know, it's always like the local legend. Like, oh, old man Jim Bob Billy Bean over here, he died in the lake over here. And
Jim Bob Billy Bean, wow.
I don't know. I'm just making up a name, Matt.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. I mean, we're number one. No.
We're number one.
No. I don't know. It's random, but no, like, like they just tell you that weird local legend.
Number one.
No, like, like you get that weird story of like somebody like dying in a lake, and then it was like, oh, well, they haunt the castle grounds over here, and and you're just like, okay, so you're saying that just this random dude, Jim Bob Billy Bean, like just randomly, he's just hanging out in the corner of the castle, and because that's where he, maintained an area. Like, I don't know. I mean, you see in movies like all the time where, I always, I know another franchise that Matt doesn't really like to talk about as much as we mentioned it a couple times in the past, but like Harry Potter, I was joking. Here we go. He's like, oh, yeah. So like in some of those like movies, I mean, it's magical, it's, wizardry and things like that. But yeah, they have actual ghosts like, walking or like kind of roaming the halls and doing other shit like that. They're kind of friendly, but like, yeah, I always think of like Casper, right? And I always think of the, that friendly kind of version, but then it's like, you look at his uncles, and they're all like, mischief, and it's kind of like,
yeah,
kind of crazy and like how they do things and stuff. I mean, now I'm just saying, like, when you look at the portrayals of like, ghosts and paranormal and stuff. I mean, it's all different. I mean, it's all really your own interpretation. It's really not really set in stone. Like, what is a ghost or what is a paranormal? Like, what are these things?
I mean, there's a pretty popular show now. I haven't watched it at all, but I think it's just called Ghosts.
Yeah, I haven't seen
and I haven't seen it, but I guess it's doing pretty well right now. I think it's maybe Hulu. But I haven't seen it. But yeah, I mean, it has that kind of idea. I mean, it's obviously more of a comedy show than it is like, more serious. But like you also have like, I mean, we mentioned Being Human in the vampire episode. I mean, right. that one, obviously, yes, there is a ghost in there, but there are other ghosts in the show.
Right. That's just the more prominent one. Yeah.
So that's just the more prominent one. But yeah, I think, it's just kind of like, it creates that intrigue and it creates the buzz, and it just, it's that, unknown question of like, do ghosts exist? Are they friendly or are they not friendly? Like, it just kind of like perpetuates the question where we see Ghostbusters and like, we see the ghost there, and like, Beetlejuice, obviously, like we see them more as a physical presence. So we may not associate those characters as ghosts, but in the movie, they are in fact ghosts. Casper is more of like that animated. I mean, I know they made a movie of it, but like it's more of like an animated cartoon for kids.
Well, I mean, and we go back to like the Ghostbuster, it's like they call it like the ectoplasm. Like it's not really, it's like they're there, like you can see them, but it's also like that gooey kind of ooze coming out.
But even that makes it like, they have like a physical presence. Like there's a physicalness to the ghosts that are there, but they also take in like the fact of like their ghost busting, which is more of like them just doing like, the kind of the paranormal investigations, right? With the tools that they're using. But this whole craze, and I find this like really, really fucking crazy. Like this whole like paranormal or spiritualism craze was actually like sparked by a hoax by these their last name is Vox. But there initially was two sisters, and then there was a third sister that came along and kind of helped manage what these two sisters were doing. So they actually made a career of this like childhood prank that they were doing. And it was in New York. They basically said that they were mediums and they could communicate with the dead. And 40 years later, so this was in 1849 when they started this, and then 40 years later, John,
So the fact that it started in the, like I said, the mid 1800s at this point.
1800s, yes. 40 years later, they said at the time they thought they were pulling off a prank, except people that saw them and were coming to them believed it was real. Like they were really communicating with the dead, and they were actually mediums, and they would make noises by cracking knuckles. They would crack their toes, and they would crack other joints, kind of like
yeah.
But they would make like those pops of like joints. I guess like they would do like some crazy thing where I was like reading this thing where they would crack like the joint that's in their ankle.
Oh, well,
and
I can do that with my ankle sometimes.
And I guess it was so freaking loud that in like a hall, like a large hall full of people, you could hear it clear as day. Like that's how loud this thing was. So they made a career of being mediums and holding seances.
So this is interesting because...
And they were fake.
Well, no. So, like, how, like, when we reviewed, like, the vampires and the werewolves and, like, we were looking at some of the lore behind it, like, how these things were, came to be and kind of all this.
Yeah.
I just love how literally two people from basically America, okay, this is the beginning of American, like, culture and kind of, like, building it up. These sisters were like, hey, you know what, we're just going to make a real prank out of this. And then, they kept doing it for so long. And then like 40 years later, mentioned this.
This is even before Houdini. I think like this, like what they were doing, like started like what Houdini ended up like doing with the like kind of illusion magic, which was kind of the same thing, like faking a lot of like what he was doing was fake. But people like believed like, oh, he's going to drown. No, he's not.
Well, I mean, technically, in his last act, he did.
He ended up doing that, but like, breaking out of things and like, out of like straight jackets and like, it was all fake, but people believed it was real, and that was kind of like the start of it. Like,
so this is where I can see why your skepticism was, probably now like, okay, well, is this even really a reality or not? But this is where I'd also say like, this is also in like different cultures, right? And I also think of like, what is it? Like, I would probably say like more Mexican culture, but I would maybe even really Hispanic culture or Latin, culture.
Yeah.
How like I know down in Mexico they have like the Day of the Dead, right? And they kind of like they talk to their ancestors or their like loved ones or something like that, and they like offer food and they do other things. They leave clothes or possessions. I mean, and that's kind of like, they're kind of like their way of saying, hey, we're talking with you. But I mean, granted, they understand like, yeah, they're not going to physically talk back to them. But like, I know in other cultures, not even just them, but like, it's not like it's not normal for let's say us to go to a graveyard or go visit our loved ones that are dead, even though we're not.
Well, no, I mean, what they were doing though, they were doing it in such a setting where, they were having people come and they were like communicating with, and granted, this was a huge thing in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Where are those people now? You know where they are. They've all been found out that they were fake. Like, look them up. Like, look some of these people up. Like,
actually,
they've all been revealed.
There is. Hold on. I do remember, and I don't know if they're still going on, but there's this TV show called The Long Island Medium, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I believe she was called out for being fake. I believe.
But, maybe you know what it is, man. Maybe she was part of the like maybe her ancestors were those sisters. Maybe because maybe that's the connection. You know what I mean? Maybe she has like a long history of that. Maybe she was somehow connected to these sisters from back in the day because they're all in New York and she is from New York. So maybe that's what it is, Matt.
Yeah, I want to say that she was like her readings were fake, and that's what I was reading earlier.
I'll let you look at that, but I know with like, kind of moving forward to like different pop culture. I mean, we've already kind of talked about a few of these already, but like, you got Ghostbusters, you got Casper, you got Beetlejuice, and I'll let him mention the next one. But like, starting with these three, Ghostbusters, was so iconic. I mean, it's crazy that movies that were like, especially like this was like a hype, right? Because you had the first two, movies really set in the '80s, and then did they ever have a third one? I can't remember if they ever did. The Ghostbusters.
I mean, the original ones were just 1 and 2.
Was it just okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it was 1 and 2, and then basically, yes, there is a reboot because that's kind of what they did.
Yeah, and
it was absolutely terrible. I will tell you right now, you don't ever watch it. I'm sorry, it shouldn't have never happened. But then, thank God, what they did was they basically continued this story much later in time. It was actually on. It was what's his actual name? Oh yes, Ivan. No, what's his name? The guy who. So I know, yeah, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray is Harold Ramis. It's his character, right? I'm trying to remember his actual name in the movie, but it's basically his Egon. There we go. Egon's character. It's basically based on his family. His daughter has 2 kids, and he ends up dying and basically leaves his estate to her. And I know she's like cleaning it out, and they're like in this weird ass town. I believe it's like right outside of New York, I think, or it's like in this weird town of, I can't even remember the exact town name. But anyways, like, they like go in the town and they're just like trying to like figure out what the hell's going on and like why, all of a sudden, why like did she just leave this like basically shitty house? And it was like, it was kind of interesting because like, they're just trying to figure it out, but then like they start to figure out that, it's actually it's basically just a ghost, like, it's like a giant, I can't even remember what the hell it's called, like the tool that they used. Because it was basically where they could capture all the ghosts. Because he like his house was just a giant trap.
Yeah, he just made all the ghosts. He made a giant trap. Yeah.
But anyways, like, yeah, and it follows that. And then, the second movie, The Frozen Empire, they kind of continue on with the legacy of the Ghostbusters and so forth. I'm not going to spoil it all for you. You'd have to watch it. But like, the point is Ghostbusters has been around for so long that it's became a cult classic.
I think what I liked about Afterlife and Frozen Empire was that it was made by Ivan Reitman's son.
Yes, the continuation.
And Ivan Reitman made the original 2 films. So having his son basically like kind of taking the reins and making them in the similar fashion, was really, really cool.
Well, because you don't normally see that either. You don't really see like a father-son duo like that to like continue on the legacy, of these movies.
Yeah, it was really cool to see that, and they kept the same type of feeling with those movies. Obviously, they're a little bit different because it's kind of a newer generation, but.
I think they did. I still think they, did a good job, and it was kind of cool that they brought in the original.
I think some of the stuff in Frozen Empire was maybe a little forced or not necessary, but I mean, I think it was still a good movie.
Oh, it was still a great movie, and I won't. You couldn't really change it. I mean, now I would say if you're going to make another movie, this is where I feel like it's a great. It could be a great way to just kind of like end, the Ghostbuster legacy. But I also can see that they might, explore the option of like, Egon's like granddaughter, like the one that, basically reminds, because when you look at her and you see her in the movie, it's like, yeah, it's like, you would know that that's his granddaughter. Like it's just almost identical.
Yeah.
In a female version. But, go on. Cause I know you're going to you probably figured out that other thing that you were looking up.
Well, no, I mean, basically what was said that she was actually, for the show that she had, which is Long Island Medium, her name is Teresa Caputo.
Yes.
Is that for her show, like they would actually, the people that worked on the show would actually do a kind of a pre-interview for the audience that came to the shows. And she would kind of then do what most mediums do, and it's called cold reading, which is, if you don't know what cold reading is, it's basically making like educated guesses. It's a very like psychological process.
Oh yeah.
And based on a kind of elimination. But that's kind of like what she would do. And a lot of the people that were at her shows were starting to go like to Ticketmaster or to like people that ran the show and say like, I want my money back because this is bullshit. Like, it's not a real reading. Like, she's grasping at straws. Like there were some instances that I saw where, she was saying like, I'm sensing like, a father figure or whatever. And, the person would say like, oh yeah, that must be my grandfather. And, at one point she was like, I'm seeing that he died from like prostate cancer. And the guy was like, no, he had a heart attack. She's just like, it's like grasping at straws. And she's like, oh, well, I do see him like grabbing at his heart. So he must have had this problem for a long time. Well, no fucking shit. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure out somebody dying of a heart attack had a heart issue for like, but that's the thing. Like, it was just kind of, she was exposed through the show, like finding out that like a lot of the questions that they were asking the audience, like she was basically taking those and like, that's where she was going to, and like doing these like, cold interview type questions where she was like, I'm seeing like, like a woman and she's wearing a red dress. Do you know of a woman who would wear a red dress? Who fucking doesn't? You know what I mean? It's like so generic stuff. Like, but that's kind of what these mediums do. Like that's exactly what they do. And it makes you really skeptical.
Right. And well, I was also going to mention this too. And it was kind of like, oh, I guess it's still on the same topic, just kind of off topic a little bit. I'm trying to remember that show with Jennifer Love Hewitt. You know what I mean? Like she was
like Charmed?
No. She was like the ghost whisperer. Like she would like in the show she would like talk to ghosts and basically what she would do is like try to figure out the problems of like people around her. Because what would happen is like people, she would just like sit somewhere or like do something and then all of a sudden.
You mean Ghost Whisperer?
Is it Ghost Whisperer? There you go. Yeah, that's the show. I couldn't remember the name. Maybe I was right. Yeah. So the Ghost Whisperer. So like literally she would just go around like seeing these ghosts somewhere and then like, but they hang around the family members or the friends or something like that.
Say I've never seen the show.
I've only seen clips of it. But the thing is like basically she tries to help out these ghosts and the loved ones of these people. And like they try to like somehow like she's like the medium in between trying to figure out the problems of these ghosts to like help these people out in the same sense. That's basically what the show is, the gist of it. But
does she actually whisper to the ghost? Like,
she goes, hey, ASMR.
Hey, I see you. Hey, I see you over there.
I see dead people.
No. Hey, do you need help over there?
Hey, come here.
Hey, come here. I can help you.
Real quick. Anyways, no. Can we stop? That's just weird. It's getting a little too weird. No, but like, I mean, literally it was, I don't know. I've seen it a couple of times, but like, it was fine. But like, I guess it's the same thing. It's like, that's probably the only way, if I ever saw somebody could do that, that's a different story. But like that, again, it's a TV show, but
yeah, I mean,
no way it's going to happen.
If you study psychology and I mean, that would be the only real way that you would be probably good as a medium. If you really wanted to like, hey, I want to be a medium and say that I actually communicate with the dead. Like there are ways that like you can do like those like cold kind of interview, like when you're talking to people, because like, it's the way like when you ask a question and you're seeing like a facial, like it's like what was that show? There was a show like a Profiler or something like that where the people that were in the show, like when they interviewed people, like it was like a crime show.
Oh.
But they would interview people, but they all like kind of studied this specific like type of like skills where they could look at like what your face did when they talk to you, and they could tell like whether you were lying or like it's a very particular skill, and that's kind of what you can learn as a medium. Like when you're asking about like, oh, I'm seeing a woman with a red dress, does anybody know anybody that wore a red dress? And you can kind of see like the reaction, and like I'm getting kind of an A name, and you can kind of like deduce it from there and be like, maybe like Amanda or like Annika, or like, and like, oh, my sister was Annika. Oh, okay. It's like,
oh yeah, I mean, and then you just feed off that.
You just kind of like deduce it from there, and you just keep going further, and you're like asking questions, but that's where like psychology comes into play. But yeah, she was a fake, and I think there was another guy probably around the same time that was kind of doing the same shit.
I mean,
I don't buy that.
No, I mean, I'll agree with you. Like, yes, that I don't buy that. I don't buy it either.
If you came up to me and it's like, hey, I can talk to the dead, and I can talk to a loved one if you want. Well, you can go fuck yourself, bud.
Well, I mean, what's the other way? Well, it's actually kind of an old school. It reminds me of like going to like parties and like, I don't know, like more like high school and like that kind of stuff. He's like, okay, let's pull out the Ouija board, and like, oh, I'm getting like, something.
Like, hey, bud, pretty soon, if you keep talking to me, you're not just going to be talking to the dead. You're going to be seeing them too.
You're gonna meet Jesus today. I'll tell you what.
You're gonna be meeting Jesus today.
You're gonna learn today, boy. I tell you what, son.
So yeah, we got Casper. Everybody knows who fucking Casper is. I mean, he's the friendly ghost, animated show. He had a movie in '95.
Well, and he also had. I think there was a couple other movies too.
There was a couple. I think it was like. The fuck was it? It was like Casper and Matilda or something. I don't know. It was something weird.
It was so it was like you had the first one. That was the more iconic one for the movies. But then like the second one was like, I don't know. Basically, when I mentioned his uncles, like
it was one movie too much.
Yes, it was kind of 1-2 movies too much. No, but like yes, he had an animated show. He had all this other stuff. But like the one thing about Casper that I always found interesting was like, this is where when I say you see him. And he, again,
I think the movie made it weird though.
Well, it made it weird because the thing is like it's like kind of the animated style.
They were trying to make him like be like a real boy.
I'm a real boy now.
but no, they were trying to do, and I think that he became like kind of a real kid.
Well, he actually in the movie, if I'm not mistaken, he does actually show what he looked like.
Yes,
before he.
Before he died, yeah, and it was like, just keep him a fucking ghost. Can we just keep Casper as a ghost? Like, come on.
No, I agree with you. I mean, and then
we don't need him being anything else.
I think I want to say in the two or the many movies after that they should have never made. I always thought it was funny because like Casper was always like he was nice, he was this and that, but like his uncles were holy shit, man. I thought it was funny because. Actually, I believe it wasn't in, or maybe it was in the first one. They had.
Was that the movie with Bill Pullman?
Yes.
Yes.
Was Bill Pullman? Yes, good guy. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I'm sorry. Anyway, so the uncles. It was I can't remember if it was in the first movie or the second one. I don't know, but like the actual actors that played the uncles. They it was weird. Like in the movie, they the ghosts were possessing the actual people that they were actually playing as, and it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So, but it was just interesting because I mean, I don't know. It was just I know it's kind of random, but like they were just doing stupid shit. It's
pretty sad. Like I think today's society probably don't even know who the fuck Casper is.
No, you're probably
right.
Same
thing. It's the same thing with like if you said Woody Woodpecker, they'd be like, who?
Who the fuck is that? What?
Who?
Woody? Well, that's not true because Woody actually they did make another movie recently. They made two actually, but
nobody watched it though.
No, but I'm just saying you're right. I mean, typically I would say most kids are like, "Oh, look, it's Woody, woohoo!"
Yeah,
but no. And then,
Your favorite,
my
Beetlejuice. We're not going to break this whole the movie down,
no,
but
'cause I think we definitely talked about it before.
Beetlejuice. We did a full episode on it. You can go check that episode out. But yeah, he is the ghost with the most. That's kind of what he says. But yeah, the whole movie is. The whole movie is about people who have died, and the whole movie is about ghosts. So it's like,
yeah. No. And again, go watch it. Go listen to our episode because literally we talk about Beetlejuice the entire time. So yes.
So some of my when you're talking about paranormal movies, Paranormal Activity, at least maybe the first couple of the movies. There are 5 movies in all. They're so revolutionary for the time that they came out.
Because this started all back in the early, if I'm not mistaken, was it 2010? Or was it, I want to say, or it might have been 2008. I think it was 2008, 2010, around that area.
2007 is when the first one came out, yeah.
2007, god damn, really? I didn't think it was that early, okay. All right, but yeah, I know, because it started from there, and then it just it made you believe that it was real. It totally brought you into a place where, holy shit, this is really happening. Because much the inspiration a lot for these movies was Blair Witch Project. Where if you've seen Blair Witch Project, it was, for I think a long time with Blair Witch, people thought that the fucking movie was real. They're not going to make a fucking movie where people died and then be like, hey, we just made a movie, guys. Have fun, watch it. It was fake the whole time. I was going to say that would be criminal evidence for the police to basically go ahead and arrest them. But yeah,
that was the draw to Blair Witch is that it was they didn't come out and say that Blair Witch was a found footage film. But that's exactly what Blair Witch was. It was a low budget movie that was you give a couple kids cameras, a couple college kids cameras, and they're wandering around in the woods, and you have that movie, and people think it's real up until maybe you have a movie, MTV Movie Awards, and they come out and accept an award, and you're like, what the fuck? These guys died.
What do you mean they're alive?
What do you mean they're alive? They're real people? Yeah, they're real people. But Paranormal Activity did the very same thing. And it was it was low budget. It actually, the movie had no crew.
I found that very interesting.
There's no crew. It was found footage. The dialogue was improvised. Actors were given a storyline, a story outline.
So I just find it interesting. This is probably one of the very rare movies where you can say a majority of this was mostly improv. It was no written.
Oh, it was 100% because there were there wasn't a script written. They were given
who was the director of this?
I have to look it up.
Well, because you have to have a director. It's you have to have somebody and producers.
Oren Peli.
Well, this guy is a genius. That's all I got to say.
You know how much the budget was to make the movie?
I'm gonna say $20. What?
$15,000.
Are you shitting me? $15,000? They probably made.
You know how much money the movie made?
Let me guess. $200 million.
Pretty close. $194.2 million. Oh,
that was a
on
pretty
a
good
$15,000 budget.
I will tell you right now, that is probably one of the best, grossing wise, for a low budget film.
Probably yes. But yeah, it had no crew. It was found footage. They bought high definition cameras, and it was the way that they shot the movie because they basically put what looked like security cameras.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
in the house, and you had this guy who had a camcorder that was walking around saying that he wanted to record everything because all of a sudden these weird things were happening in the house. And that's kind of where you get it, and you have, the camera that's on a tripod and it's catching doors closing and things happening.
Right. And the security cameras
escalates throughout the whole thing. And it's not like the movie is, scary in the way that like you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, like, but
It's like the horror, oh, not the horror,
it's
like
kind
suspense.
it's suspenseful and it builds up, but you can hear that kind of like low rumbling when things are about to happen, and you're like, oh crap, what's gonna happen? And like suddenly, like the sheets pull off the bed, and you're like, oh fuck, like things are good.
Where the fuck are you coming from? Yeah,
things are happening right now, But that was the thing, and like when the second one came out, like they had this like they developed this like camera that they took the fan blade off of it. And it was like one of those oscillating fans, so it just spun. And so they took the front cage off, they took the blade off of it, they put the camera inside the fan cage. And so when the fan was running, it basically just went from one room to the other. And as it went to one room, like you would see kind of like a cat, all the cabinets fly open, and you'd be like, "Oh fuck!" Like something.
He's like, "Where the fuck are you coming from?"
But that was the thing, and the movies were so well made until they started making like the third one, and then the fourth one, and then the fifth one, and you're like,
well,
it's just going way like you're taking the story of this, and you're just dragging it down.
Well, not even that. You're more watering it down. Like you're not even. It's not the same hype. It's not the same.
Because
craze.
now you're going like, oh, there's a ghost dimension, and you're like bringing people through time, and it's like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Listen,
like,
we're not goddamn Marvel.
Yeah.
We could do whatever the fuck we want, kind of a deal. But
yeah, so Paranormal Activity was great, and we kind of mentioned it in the last episode, but the Wayans actually did a parody movie of Paranormal Activity called A Haunted House. There's two movies, Haunted House and A Haunted House 2, and they are absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen those, you need to go find them and watch them because they are pretty funny.
Well, Wayans Brothers in general, I mean, if you haven't heard of them, if you haven't even watched any other stuff, I'm going to tell you right now, you're living out of a rock. Don't maybe come over there and beat your butt, because I tell you what, if you don't watch these, or at least just watch anything with the Wayans Brothers in it, I'm telling you, you're gonna laugh your ass off no matter which one you watch. I mean,
a Haunted House, though, I mean, it's so funny, and it follows kind of the same flow as like the Paranormal Activity movies do. Where it's like, it looks like the found footage and like it, but it's just like a bunch of crazy shit. Like I think like he runs over the dog, like when they move into the house, like it's just so stupid. Like, it's just so funny.
I mean, and so like kind of going on to that, like, the paranormal, like TV shows and stuff. I mean, we talked about the Long Island Medium, of course, but like, when you're talking about like ghost hunters and like ghost adventures and, those kinds of like,
did you ever, I mean, I don't know if you ever watched a lot of the shows. I definitely watch Ghost Hunters, and I think I still watch Ghost Adventures now.
Okay. I mean, I've seen a couple. Of course I've seen them.
Do you ever remember MTV's Fear?
I'm trying to remember. I think I want
that was the one where they had like the contraption where they wore this like camera contraption that shot them like first person, and they they would send like these kids to like this like haunted asylum or like this like haunted place, and like they would kind of walk around with these like GoPro things, like look.
Yeah, no, I know. Yep, I do know what you're talking about now. Yes.
And these ones, there's a reason why Ghost Hunters is no longer on TV.
And why don't you explain, Matt? Because I have a strange feeling I know what it is.
Well, because they're largely faked for entertainment, and that's exactly like what Ghost Hunters was blamed for.
Yep.
Investigations are planned out in advance. There are things that happen within the show that are either added in post, or you just don't see because of certain angles or because the devices are being manipulated outside of the camera. So a couple of things that like we can talk about are like the devices. There's a few devices that they use, which one of them is called a REM pod or a spirit box. And like without getting like too overly complicated on like what it is, it basically is like a small, like kind of a round contraption. Most of the REM pods are like usually made custom. So it's not like there's like, Radio Shack REM pod, get yours today. Like, no. Usually like
Hold on.
there's a company that's like, there's a guy usually that making them.
I was going to say, and no offense, nobody's going to go to Radio Shack anymore because I'm pretty sure that is not.
No, I'm just making up a name. But like,
I know.
It's not like, buy your Sony REM pod today. Like, it's not like you're getting that. You're getting some random guy from New Mexico who makes REM pods for investigators,
Yeah, and then he's doing it just because he's like, beep, 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 like.
But the REM pod, it basically measures electromagnetic fields, and when the magnetic field is disrupted, you'll get a beep, and usually LED lights will light up, showing that the field has been disrupted.
Oh, I know, and so this is the part where I know that this is where it can get, again, this is why people are skeptical.
It gets really, really dicey because, like, in the show, in Ghost Hunters, they use them. In Ghost Adventures, they use them. Paranormal State, they use them. I mean, all of these shows, like, all these investigators are using REM pods because, like, what they would do is, like, the investigator would turn it on, they would set it on the floor, then they would back up, and then they would ask the ghost or the entity that they think that's in the house, they would ask questions, hoping that it will answer by lighting the LEDs and make, disrupting that field. And so if you were to set one on the floor and you moved your hand over it, it would cause it to go off.
Right. And not only that, I mean, we're talking about any electronic.
Right. So for TV shows, it really causes an issue because for TV shows like Ghost Hunters and all these other shows, you have camera gear, you have cell phones, you have sound gear,
walkie-talkies,
which not only could set it off, but yes, in particular, walkie-talkies, just by the push of the button that you use to talk in them, obviously within range,
right,
was known to set these things off. So if you were sitting in the other room and you could hear what the investigator was asking, you could easily just with the click of the walkie-talkie button, push the button, and it would set this device off.
And see, and that is the issue where, if you'd have to be a one-man crew to do this. And that's the problem. And nobody, of course, I would never want to fucking go by myself and do this shit. But like, that's the realization. Like, you would have to do it by yourself in a way and like literally have nothing on. Like, you'd have to basically have a camera.
It's extremely, extremely difficult to even prove that, the REM pod was not being interrupted. Like, you need zero electronics.
Again,
you need to actually probably shut the electricity off in the place that you're at.
Well, and
for this to actually have like a realistic thing. But even if you have a speck of dust or something that disrupts this field, I don't know if dust would do it, but like anything that would disrupt this field would set these things off. So it could be completely fucking random. I don't know. But I can tell you a lot of these shows, like they use walkie-talkies. There's cameras. Like you can see the cameras because obviously you're watching the show.
Well, so that's the problem. Like the realization is you just need a camera. And that's the problem. Like, and if that's somehow screwing it up too, then you really don't know. So there's no way to find out exactly.
You really don't know. Yeah. The other thing that they try to do is they always try to record these EVPs, which is the electronic voice phenomenon, right? They're usually recorded with like these small digital recorders. Some of these things, some of the recorders, like the ones that they use for Ghost Adventures, are like $3,000.
Fuck that. There's no way in hell I'm going to spend $3,000 on a fucking recording device that literally basically any cell phone could do just the same.
So obviously with digital recorders, like they can be highly manipulated in post. I can take this episode and add some kind of a creepy sound, or I can make that and underlie it within our entire episode. And people would be like, "Oh, did you hear that voice that was underneath your episode the whole time?" Oh, it's a goat. No, it's fucking me.
Like, it's fucking me.
It's
jackass.
just fucking me talking under my breath.
No, actually,
and that's exactly like what they're doing. But like,
I think that's what you should do, man. I think post edit. I think you should just like randomly throw a random voice in there and be like, "Hey, did you hear that voice? By the way."
But they're these digital recorders are also susceptible to interference from electronic gear, such as cell phones, walkie-talkies, sound gear, and the camera. So if you have somebody on a cell phone, this digital recorder could potentially pick it up, or even on the walkie-talkie.
Well, so I know there's some other things too, but like the beauty of sound effects, man. I mean, the fact that I could literally knock, and let's just say if it's a creepy ass old wooden house, and if I knock it right in one spot, and all of a sudden you're like, where am I? Yeah. So if I did it upstairs, and then let's say we're on the bottom floor, right?
Yeah.
Like someone's knocking. What's that? Really? Come on, genius. I'm like, I already know your buddies upstairs are already hanging out with you right now.
And when you have, you see the people, and ghost hunters, like usually they go off in pairs.
Yep.
You don't see anybody else. How do I know that they're not like behind the door, or they're in another room, or they're actually somebody is walking up the stairs?
And not only that, how many people are actually with them?
Well, I mean, you have a camera crew.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, there's got to be.
So yeah, I mean, you have a whole crew, but like, all of a sudden, like, there's a loud bang in another room, and they're like, "Dude, did you hear that? Did you hear that bang?
You didn't hear that bang?
You didn't hear that bang?
I heard that bang.
I heard a bang.
I mean, dude, did you not hear it over here?
I heard it.
Did you? As I swore, I heard it over here.
I literally heard it coming from over there.
But do you see why we're doing this? It's because we're trying to show you that these idiots are like, yeah, it's over here, right? Yeah, no, I swear I heard it over here.
Oh my gosh, dude, it feels so cold right here.
Hey, did you know that there was a breeze in here? Oh my God! Hey, wait, now it feels warm. What the hell, man? Like, what's going on here?
It's like it's just one of those things, like, voices and bangs and footsteps. Like, yes, like you can have like those other people making those noise, but like a lot of those things can be added in post. And
also what we just did, acting.
This is this is kind of the biggest thing, because this depends on what the investigators are able to pull off these kind of fake paranormal events as real. Like, if they can fool you into making you believe that these events are real, then they have you. Like, from feeling like the cold spots, and it doesn't take a genius to like blow some dust off a shelf from an old building, and then you're like, "Hey, did you see that particle? It went right into that room. Like, that's weird, right?" No, it's fucking dust, guys. Come on. It's just a fucking ball of dust that you've made it a little bit bigger, so you can say it's an orb. John, it's an orb.
Or one of my favorites is, dude, I just felt something touch me.
Oh, dude, something touched my arm.
Like, what the hell, man? Did you not feel that? I mean, somebody just like tapped me on my shoulder. Like, it's weird. I don't. What the fuck, man? Like, or another one. Ready? As I mentioned before, the Ouija board. Moving a Ouija board. Wait, can you talk to me? Yes. And you're like, okay. Now, are you doing that?
The touch, the feel of cotton. I don't know.
Please don't.
I don't know why that came to my mind.
I don't know what the hell that was, man, but okay. No, no, but like, you see,
my shirt is touching me, John.
No shit.
No shit, buddy.
Shirt. You're wearing a shirt, buddy. And then on top of this, right? So not only the acting, not only the voices and all the sound effects stuff, the camera, right? So the camera, we all know that
there are certain tricks. Yes, there are certain tricks. There are certain types of fishing line. Now, when I say fishing line, you're like, well, in some like movie, like really cheap made movies, you can see fishing line.
Yes, you can.
And it's because most fishing line, if you know anything about fishing line, it's because it's reflective.
Correct.
So if you took, a different, some of the braided lines or the fishing lines that are not that same type of like monofilament fishing line, those there are certain types that are completely invisible to cameras. And so if you use it to, you attach the line to a door, or, maybe you have a certain toy that's on the floor and you're like, hey, can you move this toy? Show me your reel. And then all of a sudden, like somebody pulls the string and then the toy moves like a centimeter. And you're like, oh my God, did you just see that, dude? Like, oh, shut up.
Get the hell out of here. No, and that's the thing. It's like, you got that, you got, the different angles.
Certain angles, lighting. The idea that no one's in the shot, even though like you may have a whole crew, someone behind the wall knocking, even on a different floor. You might have someone behind the door as it either opens or closes. And then when they go to investigate, it cuts right to the investigator, giving the person time to move out of the way silently so that when they get to the door, they're like, dude, there's no one here, bro.
What the fuck, man? I thought I haven't been here in like 50,000. No, 50,000. I'd be like 50 years. I tell you. No.
So one of the things like I was actually looking up earlier was Ghost Adventures, and some of the people like the complaints that they've had.
Oh, please tell me you're gonna have like reviews on like some of the things that they've said.
Well, no, because I've seen some of the people like who've talked about like when they've come either to their house or to their business to like do an investigation, where they will literally come, do an investigation, and it's like they just leave. They don't say they found anything. Like they don't even seem like they're really investigating. And then like when the show comes out, it's like they find like all of this shit. Like Ghost Adventures does one of these things with a camera that it supposedly catches the little stick figure people. I don't know if you've watched the show at all, but
I mean,
they have this camera that like supposedly like if there was a ghost like standing at your desk,
okay,
it would create like a little stick figure dude, and they would be like, oh dude, there's someone standing at the desk. They add that in post.
I think actually I'm pretty sure I've seen both Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures. I mean, I'm not surprised because I think it has something to do with like you said, the camera, right? And it's like they show like a. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about because it's like like a green outline or whatever, and it just like, oh look, there's like somebody doing weird shit.
It's usually all like weird and glitchy.
Yeah.
But they add that in post because it's not actually in the shot.
Right, because you can't.
And then Zach, there was one in particular investigation where Zach, I guess, like they had some kind of a psychic or something come in.
Of course, a psychic, yeah.
And she was doing this certain thing in front of a mirror, and she did her thing and then she left. And then when Zach and their crew came back in, the psychic didn't come back. Zach did that whole thing, claiming like, "Oh, this was me. I came up with this whole thing by myself."
Get the fuck out of here!
So it was like,
what the hell is this shit?
Yeah, it was like, no, you didn't.
No, you talked to that psychic.
You're not even real, bro. Like,
get out of here.
But everything, they have a lot of shit that's like added in post, and everything is made to appear more like entertaining in the paranormal level, not like. You're watching a movie, but like more like it's made to like make you think like this is what has been going on is real.
This is why when you look at those shows, you look at the Long Island Medium, And you look at these sisters that were creating this bullshit back in the day, and then you think to yourself, I mean, I understand a lot of the hype, but like, what the fuck are you guys on? Like, what makes you think that? I mean, I understand that people, yes, I'm going to say it. People are gullible. People are naive. They are this and that, and they will believe damn near anything.
Oh yeah,
you know, just like I told you about those, those Sasquatch people, the cults and stuff like, oh, they'll believe it, even though they don't have technical proof yet. But, this is the point. It's like, you look at these kinds of people that just like, they want to flock like sheep, right? And they just want to be like, well, they said it's real. And don't you see that? Like, that's what's going on. I'm like, first of all, no, it's just like, it's going to sound stupid, but it's kind of off topic a little bit, but like, how like in cop shows, how they, how they like zoom in on a camera and they like get like really close to like facial recognition, all this other shit, like this technology. Because in real life, you can't really do that shit. There's no such thing as doing this. Yeah. But it's the same thing where, they're like, oh, well, we they're doing this like that. The whole, like we said in the Ghost Adventures, like, oh yeah, look at them. They're doing some weird shit and they're like stick figure. Fuck you, man. That's all fucking like editing bullshit of Adobe and all this other crap.
You're adding all of that shit in post.
It's not like it's real,
It's not real. Now, I've had my fair share of personal experiences.
Well, and that's actually what I was going to mention too. Here,
when we worked at Farnham.
See, this is where I'm interested because I, for the life of me, cannot remember this. You're going to have to enlighten me because it might have been when
we were working at Farnham, we worked third shift.
Oh yeah, this is already creepy enough, but yeah.
At the time, John, we were, if you remember, around this time we were working on taking out one of the year's worth of files.
Oh God, yeah, okay.
And
I remember those
so
days.
that we could make room for the new year's.
Oh yeah,
of files.
Right. Yeah.
So Vicky was actually on men's. I think I was on women's at the time, and I think you were on detox.
Oh, gee.
Which might not be why you remember.
Probably why not? No, because I was on the furthest unit there was, but yeah.
So I was in the file room.
Oh yeah,
by myself, mind you.
I think you told me about this when we had lunch, or we had like a little lunch dinner thing. But
yeah, and I 100% like I'm there. I'm taking out files. I'm putting them in the boxes. Like I'm just doing my thing, like trucking along, and all of a sudden, clear as day, I hear my name. And I'm like, oh, that must be Vicky. Like, no big deal. Like, I'll just walk over there and
call it a day.
I'll see what she wants. So I went over there and I was like, what do you want? And she was like, nothing. I don't need you for nothing. And I'm like, stop fucking with me. Because Vicky as well as I do.
I was surprised that she was on third shift that night.
That she was on men's. But as well as I do that she would have been one that would have run over there and went, Matt, and then ran back to the office and been like, it wasn't me.
Oh yeah, no, she's very, very notorious. Yeah, no, I know, and it's been a long time since you.
But I was like, stop fucking with me. Did you just call my name? and she was like, she was very adamant. Like she was like, no, I've been here the whole time. Like she was doing like the med books and stuff, and I was like, yeah, okay. So like I went back over there and like I didn't hear it again, but it was like the freakiest fucking thing. Because like I clear as day heard like a woman call my name and use my name, like actually Matt, like clear as day. Clear as day.
I mean, and this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Like there's things that you can never explain. And this is why I'm saying like the phenomenons in life, because I'm going to say something to you. This is something that this was told by me, or sorry, let me rephrase this. This was told by my dad and my mother. They both have said this to me, but mostly my dad, because it scared the living shit out of him. Okay. So I had to be, oh God, I was probably maybe a little older than Wyatt, maybe at the time, maybe 1 or 2. I don't know, something like that. So apparently one night I was supposed to be going to bed. Okay. Now it was basically in my crib. And for some weird reason, my dad told me that he walked in, or he was like, he heard something and he didn't understand what the hell it was. So he walks into my room and here I am inside of my crib, sitting Indian style. Okay, mind you. So I'm sitting Indian style, and of course, like the old rocking chairs, like the wooden ones, right? You know, apparently, this is what he told me was that again at 2 years old, I was sitting Indian style, and this rocking chair was moving back and forth. Okay. Now, mind you, again, I don't know. This is what he told me. So the thing was, is he said, "Hey, who are you talking to?" And I'm like, the next words out of his mouth, he said, a chill went up his spine, and he said, I told him I'm talking to Grandpa Johnny. Now, mind you, I never met this man. I was named after him. Okay. His name was Giovanni Giuseppe Bergantino, but it's John Joseph Bergantino and of course American, or English, sorry. But the point is like he literally sat there and he was like, what? You're talking to who? And he's like, yeah, I'm talking to Grandpa Johnny. Next thing he does is he then grabs my mother, pulls her into the room, and they look at this rocking chair moving back and forth. And she's like, "Hey, so who are you talking to?" And I said, "Grandpa Johnny." And I kid you not, both of them were like, "What the fuck is going on? And why is this rocking chair just doing this?" As I'm sitting there talking to them and doing that. So to this day, they thought that he, and I still maybe, I don't know if you were here, it's weird because I do believe that he is and has been my guardian angel. I mean, as you can tell, there's 3 people that are, picture frames wise, those are some other important people to me. But, to me, it was weird is there was one time I remember with kind of like the presence. I know it's kind of a long drawn story here, but I smelled, how sometimes you can just smell certain things like cologne or just something that just randomly pops up. I kid you not, one day I was walking and then I smelled this one cologne that I was it was but nobody had it around. That was the thing. It was I had no idea where it came from. I didn't know what it was. And all of a sudden I smelled it and I was like, it just sounded, it felt familiar. And so it was so many years later, I had that same feeling of I know exactly what that smell is. It was British Sterling is what it was. And apparently that was the same cologne that apparently my grandfather wore too. And it was just kind of weird when all of a sudden I just smelled it and I'm like, well, wait a minute. What? I was like, why would I randomly smell something like that out of the clear blue? And that's what I mean. It was kind of like that weird triggering, I don't understand where this is all coming from. And I've never met the man, had no idea that this was what he did and all this other stuff. So I know, again, this is just my bad, little can of whoop ass there for a second. There was no sense in this whole thing. Like I said, now granted, this is all stories that were told to me, right? But I still believe that there's, kind of that weird presence in a sense where, you just don't know, really, who's watching, who's not watching, who's the, it's that weird, that's the weird thing. And like I said, I believe that there are things like that you really just can't explain and you can't really, put to words and it just kind of happens. I mean, yeah, all this other bullshit that we've just been talking about, I don't believe half that shit. But I do believe personally that, when it comes to people's essences or the presence of them sometimes, it just, I believe that there's something there. We just
So I mean, I can say in the house that we're currently living in now, we have a workbench that's downstairs.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah,
you've seen it. So back when we first moved in, or shortly thereafter, it didn't have as much shit on it back then.
Not surprised.
But I used to have this older laptop, and this thing was probably one of the very first laptops. It was
Jesus.
It was probably about an inch thick. I mean, it was kind of a smaller, kind of a netbook, not a full laptop thing. But I brought it downstairs because it wasn't working.
Right.
So I brought it down there. I was gonna just kind of work on it and whatever. But I put it right on the workbench, like made sure like it wasn't on the edge. It was on the workbench, just kind of sitting there. The top of it was closed, so it was laying flat. It wasn't on anything. It was just flat. It was just sitting there. Went back upstairs. I'm like, whatever, I'll just leave it down there and I'll come back down, another day and work on it. And, one night, the wife and I are just, we're watching TV and we hear like the loudest crash from downstairs. Like, it sounded like something literally fell and like broke into a million pieces.
Oh, shit.
And we both kind of like looked at each other and we're like, what the fuck was that? Like, where I'm like, I get up and like, I'm looking in the kitchen and I'm like, I think it came from downstairs. And so like, I go down there and I'm like looking around. Like I went over to the side where the washing machine is. And I'm like, I just don't see anything. I go to the other side and I'm looking on that side.
Yeah.
And I glance over to the workbench. The computer's not there.
Okay.
So like I'm turning around and I'm like, well, where the fuck is this thing? Like I expected if it fell, it would have fallen right on the floor.
Right.
In front. Like right where the floor, kind of meets the workbench is where it would have just fallen right off and broke there. It wasn't there. So now I'm like looking around. I'm like, where the fuck is this thing? Like, it didn't just fucking get up and go, hey, go fuck yourself. I'm out.
Peace.
So like I'm looking around and like the stairs to the basement are right in the middle of the basement.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
And a little bit behind the stairs, kind of next to the stairs,
yeah,
lies my laptop. In pieces.
Oh, in pieces.
Shattered.
Oh.
So somehow it went from the workbench
to then behind the staircase.
All the way behind the staircase, halfway across the basement.
Huh.
Nobody was down there.
Well, not that you know of.
Nobody else was home except for us two.
I don't know, buddy. That's the thing. That's why I'm saying there's things that we can't explain.
Nobody else was home. I was like, how the fuck did this happen? But I mean, I had the same thing that happened at Farnham happened at the house too, and I was by myself. Oh. And I was sitting there watching TV, and I heard Matt clear as day. It actually made me stand up and look in the kitchen because I thought it was her coming home.
Oh, Danielle.
And I looked and
was it like similar time frames? Like was it like not too far after?
I couldn't tell you if it was the same time. I mean, it was at night.
No, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't in the middle of the night. I mean, it probably was maybe like.
No, what I mean is more like, was it like around the same time like this all was happening, or was this more kind of like later in time?
I think the somebody calling my name at my house was a different time. I think it was a little bit later.
Oh, okay. That's all I needed to know.
But I do know like my dad's aunt and uncle owned the house that we lived in.
Right.
Although he did not die in the house.
Let me guess. Your aunt did.
My dad's aunt did. And a lot of times, in the bedroom where the kids were sleeping,
yep,
was her room. So a lot of times, Tate, when Tate was younger, we would often hear like at night, like, stop tickling me. Leave me alone. So we would go in there and like they had bunk beds at the time. Mm-hmm. And, Rachel's fast asleep, like not even like moving a muscle.
And then you probably see Tate
and we're sitting there going, what the hell's happening? And, all she was there would be like, she keeps tickling me. And we're like, who? Like,
who keeps tickling you?
Who's tickling you? You're like, your sister's asleep. Like, there's nobody tickling you. So it's just those unexplained things. It's like,
and that's what I'm telling you to you. Now you're saying it as a parent, or you're seeing it as a parent. Like I said, I'm just a child being told this, but it's the same thing where you're like, I mean, it's a little weird because, in this case, you're, Tate's saying, hey, I'm being tickled. In my case, I'm talking to somebody I had no idea or I've never met in my life.
This is the thing. Like we kind of did like our own, if you want to say it's like a minor exorcism, call it what you want to, but we kind of did like one of those, minor blessings like throughout the house.
Question is, did you do it or did somebody else do it?
Well, no, I mean, Danielle and I both did it together. Like, so we anointed all the doors. We went outside and prayed around the house, and we literally haven't had anything since then.
Interesting. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. I mean,
there's been nothing. There's absolutely been nothing since then.
Yeah,
but I can't explain how the laptop got from one side of the basement to halfway across the room. Like,
oh yeah.
I can't explain that because nobody else was down there. The kids hated going downstairs. So I know that the kids would not have just gone down there and like flung a laptop and then ran back upstairs.
Well, you would have known that too, because it's not like you would definitely know.
We can see where the door to the basement is. Like they would have to go down there and we'd be like, what are you guys doing down there?
Pretty much could hear from the living room kitchen. You could hear basically anyone in the house.
Yeah.
At any given moment.
At any given time.
I mean, all I got to say is that when it comes down to the ghosts and the paranormals and stuff, man,
oh, did I tell you?
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
The house that we lived on Taylor Street, used to have the fire department come at the same day and time of the month every single month.
Really?
We actually had a priest come in and do I don't know if he did just a blessing or if he did like a full exorcism of the house. But he actually did like we had a priest come in and he blessed like all the rooms.
So you're saying, is this the house that this wasn't with you and Danielle? This had to be.
No, this was when I was younger.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
When I was younger, like a lot of times, like, cause we as kids, like the basement was kind of our like play area. So like all of our toys and shit was downstairs. But like every time that we were down there, my older brothers would always mainly Donnie and Scott would get into like physical fist fights every single time we were down there.
So you're saying almost every other day they were like basically battling each other every single second.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I was just pissed because like when the priest came in, like he went through all of our rooms and basically like cleansed them.
What do you mean by cleansed? Like you mean get rid of shit?
Oh yeah, he got rid of like coloring books and like different books that we had, and like he went through the house and like cleaned everything. And I was pissed because I was still a kid at the time, and you're like, you're fucking throwing away my coloring books? Like, those aren't fucking evil, guy.
I was like, what else? I mean, well, not only that, I mean, like, imagine all the toys. It's like, okay, throw this away, throw this away, throw this away. You know what I mean? Like, it's like.
But yeah, he went through the house and like he threw out like all the different, things that could lead to a demonic.
Oh, get the hell out of it. Oh, yeah, okay. A coloring book, too,
yeah,
right?
I think it was like a He-Man coloring book or something. And like, it was
get out of here.
Come on.
That's my goddamn coloring book. Leave my fucking coloring books alone.
Leave my coloring book alone, you fucking pedophile priest.
Wow. I didn't even go that far. My God, you went another direction. Anyways, all I got to say.
No, he prayed, like he did like a whole exorcism thing for the house. And I mean, I don't know if it continued to happen after that, but I do remember like the fire department would show up and we'd be like, why are you here? And like, well, we got a call to show up. I mean, you could easily say like maybe somebody was calling.
It probably could have been that too.
But there were just, things. I think in that house, like my brother Scott, like he had said that he had wanted to see the devil.
Oh, lovely.
And actually saw the devil coming out of his closet one night.
Oh, was he maybe high or, maybe had other influences too?
I doubt it.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering. I'm only asking because.
I mean, it was a long time ago.
Okay. I understand it was a long time ago. I was just curious. That's all.
It was a long time ago.
I mean, before we get going and we do all this, I will just say that with ghosts and paranormal, stuff. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, I mean, even still to this day, and it doesn't matter where I live. I feel like anywhere that I've moved to or I've done other things, I've just had some weird shit. Maybe it's me being paranoid. Maybe it's, just weird shit. Like, cause sometimes I hate going down to my basement at night too, because it's pitch black. The fucking little storage room down there where I put the fucking ACs in. It's like, I don't want to just chill down there. Nobody wants to chill in a basement unless it's already like a man cave basement. You know what I mean? That's a difference.
Like I said, I think it's just that fear of the unknown. And obviously like, these paranormal shows and movies and like things that we've seen growing up don't help the situation.
Now,
when you're like thinking of like, a dark basement and like you see like a random shadow or, I think of like, in Poltergeist, like there was like scenes where, it would show like it behind like the curtains or whatever. It looks like a claw or something, and you're like, oh, look at that. It's like a demon coming through or a ghost. And it's like a fucking branch of a tree, like it's like.
Well, and that's the problem where like that's where I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. This is why I feel like I'm glad
I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical.
No, I agree with you. I do believe that yes, there's the whole bullshit of like the TV shows and shit like that. No, I don't believe any of that shit. I just think that yes, the shit that we've been talking about. That's the kind of stuff I'm like, yes,
there are
that's
things,
real things that
there are things that I can't explain, and it's like I can't explain them. I don't know, like the laptop thing. I honestly don't know.
And that's what I mean. There's so many things in life that we'll never be able to explain it, and that's the beauty of kind of the mystery. It's really it is. It's a giant mystery that we'll never know. But anyways, boys and girls, since I know, and again, whatever you want to be called. We've been talking about this for so long. We keep saying that, we're, trying to do things, trying to do all this stuff right now. I know, hopefully within the next, couple of weeks or really the few weeks, we're going to be having that contest. So hopefully getting you guys supporting this and getting things going, so
getting that information on our social media pages and, hopefully you guys get excited for that because, we're getting ramped up and getting excited.
I mean, you can't tell the excitement. I tell you, my smile is.
We want to, give you guys these stickers, and we want to start interacting with you guys a little bit more, and you guys can help us do that, and get some free stuff in return.
Yeah, and again, it's all what it is, right? It's being grateful, being able to give back to you guys and everywhere else, and
creating an actual community.
There you go. Yeah. Creating that geek culture community. And guess what? It doesn't matter whether you like fishing or you like shooting guns or you like DC or Marvel. It don't matter, man. It's a goddamn community. Like everyone can join. It doesn't matter who you are, right? It's not, no one's going to tell you need to be one thing or the other. That's the whole beauty of this whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, until next time.
Stay geeky.